He beat her up mercilessly that night. She was in pain, but it was part of the plan. She took pictures of herself after he beat her. The next night, we were stationed at my office with my husband and his colleagues, waiting for Sam, whom we were sure would try to break in. The gates were open, but the door to my office wasn't. He broke it and went in, going straight to where the keys and documents truly were. As he grabbed them, we all came out. He tried to run, but my husband teased him, and he fell on the floor. Then my husband arrested him immediately, and he was taken away. Hi, my name is Anna. My younger brother, Sam, was born 4 years after I was born. Right from when he started walking, it was already obvious how stubborn he was. He would touch things he was warned not to touch. He caused trouble by breaking plates around and pushing the pieces under the table. One day my dad had gone into the kitchen to grab a glass of water, but he got pierced by one of the pieces of broken plate. However, rather than discipline him, our dad spoiled him. When he was told he broke the plate, he went silent and didn't apologize. That aside, our home wasn't filled with love. Just my mom seemed to bring all the love in. Even though my dad favored my little brother in some way, he didn't care much about me. He had a great job that I learned fetched him quite enough money, but he barely gave us allowances. While my mom was away, he would often bring strange ladies to the house and make us promise to never tell our mom about it. It was hard keeping a secret from her, but we had no choice to. Our dad had threatened to send us out of his house if we ever told her. When I was around 12 years of age, I heard him quarreling with my mom. Apparently, Sam had told my mom about our dad's behaviors whenever she wasn't home, and that made my mom pissed. From what I got out of their argument, my mom wasn't surprised about it. Instead, she was disappointed that he was doing it in front of his young children. That fight led to him leaving the house that night.
You're being bold with me, right? Let me see how you manage with the kids and yourself while I'm away.
No matter how much we begged him, his decision was already finalized. He left the house and took with him his money, cars, and a few other things. Our mom was left stranded. Her job as a teacher could barely even feed her. It was a tough period for us, trying to adjust to the life our dad had subjected us to. A few weeks later, Sam and I overheard our mom crying on the phone.
It's not even been 2 months and he's already with another woman. He also bought a new car. Meanwhile, his children and I are suffering.
Anna, I think the person managed to calm her after a few minutes as she stopped crying.
Dad's quite lucky with women. How could he get someone else in less than a month?
I was truly surprised hearing his comment. Was that all he cared about? I stormed to my room in anger, ignoring his voice as he continuously yelled out my name. Luckily, our mom got a better job at a huge company, and things began to change for us. With just us and our brother, I began to wonder how best we could train Sam so he doesn't end up like our father. I told my mom about it, but she shrugged it off, saying nothing of that sort would happen. By the time we were both getting closer to adulthood, our mom had tried to start a delivery business that had become very popular. Meanwhile, Sam was growing worse each day. He would bring in different young girls every day while our mom was away. I'd tried my best to teach him like a father would, even though I'm a woman. However, it seemed as though I didn't try enough. He got worse each passing day. Different ladies would visit our home, complaining about Sam cheating on them with their friends, sisters, or strangers. Most times, the girls ended up fighting with each other, often leading to injuries. It was quite a tough period while he was growing up. Worst of all, he was extremely strong-headed and would never listen to a word I said. My mom developed high blood pressure from always having to worry about him. She also wanted him to stop, but there wasn't anything much she could do. Around the time he was age 28, he suddenly brought home a lady, Kate, and said he wanted to get married to her. She looked so beautiful, kind, and respectful. It made me scared for her. She appeared like a loyal lady, but I knew Sam wasn't loyal in any way. I excused myself and asked Sam to follow me. He reluctantly did. If you're going to put her through pains from your promiscuous attitude, don't get married to her.
And how's that any business of yours? I didn't bring her here for your stupid advice, okay?
I knew that would be his reaction. I knew I couldn't tell her about his attitude as that would make him vexed. But thinking back now, I think I should have warned her. They got married a year after I did. Barely 2 months into their marriage, Kate came crying to me, her face all bruised and swollen. Sam had beat her up after she demanded to know the reason he was always out until late into the night. According to her, His job didn't require him to stay out later than 5 p.m., but he was always home after midnight.
Sometimes I see lipstick stains on his shirt. Also, I perceive female cologne on him. I'm tired.
It was sad to see her crying so much over Sam's silly attitude. I gave her false hopes by convincing her that my brother would never cheat on her. And there might be a lady trying hard to turn his eyes to her. If not, Sam isn't like that. I shouldn't have lied to her, but I also couldn't reveal my brother's true self to her. I promised her that I was going to speak to him and convinced her that he'll change. Afterward, I took her to a hospital and had the doctor treat her wounds. I called my brother that night to talk to him about what Kate had told me, but he flared up.
I've told you countless times to get your eyes out of my marriage. I'm going to deal with you seriously if you don't, regardless of the bloodline we share.
He hung up afterward. I was fed up. I knew Sam would never listen, but I didn't want him to continue hurting the poor lady who did nothing but love him. The next day, Kate showed up at my place, all bruised and in even worse pain than the previous day. Sam had hit her for coming to report his behavior to me. Kate was convinced that he was cheating on her. She told me she was going to find the woman who was making her husband mistreat her. But I knew within myself that it wasn't just a woman. Sam probably had over 3 women he was cheating on Kate with. I knew she would get even more hurt if she realizes that it wasn't just one woman, and he's been an irresponsible man since way back. My husband was a cop. While Kate was crying in my living room, he walked in. I was surprised to see him, as I'd thought he wouldn't be home until the next day. "Who's this?" he asked. I explained who Kate was and what was going on, still excluding the part of my brother's true character. My husband told her it was a crime to hit her to that extent, and encouraged her to report him to the police. I was scared of what would happen if they did that. It could worsen his bad attitude toward Kate. I tried to stop them, but my husband was against it.
If he's punished for his actions, he'd forget about that woman he's cheating with and learn how to love his wife properly.
I wanted to tell them it wasn't just one woman, but I couldn't. Anyway, that night, my husband with 2 of his men, Kate and I went over to his house. There, he was arrested for beating up his wife so badly. My brother spent 2 weeks in a cell before he was released. Did he get better? No. He got worse. He went on with his promiscuity and never stopped beating her. Eventually, I was forced to reveal my brother's true attitude to Kate and my husband. They were both pissed.
How could you keep such a thing away from her? She's his wife and deserves to know. You could have told her from the beginning.
Kate, on the other hand, just sat on the floor, crying. I begged her to forgive me for holding it all in. The next day, we visited my mom and made a plan to take him to a therapist. My mom promised to call him and talk to him about it. Right when we were talking about it, my mom's phone rang. It was my dad's old lawyer. She wondered why he was calling. When she answered it, she was informed that my dad had died 2 weeks ago, and it was time to read out his will. I was surprised to hear that he'd requested Sam's and my presence while it's being read. With the case of the therapy pushed aside for a while, we headed to my father's house 3 days later. In his will, 2 mansions were given to me, 2 to my mom and 1 to Sam. That made him furious. But what the lawyer told my mom and I that my father had found out, Sam was spoiled and bitter towards women and didn't leave him much as a punishment.
He loved me the most. How can he give you both more?
We ignored his ranting and left home, but from then on he became like an insane man. Every day, he would come to my house yelling at the top of his voice that I should give the 2nd mansion to him as he deserved it. I refused. He gave them to me, not you. Leave me alone, Sam. He refused and continued harassing my mother and I for the mansions and even punched me. I reported him to my husband and we decided that it was fine to put Sam in his place. We knew how desperate he was for the mansions and set up a trap for him. Our plan pulled through 1 week later. Kate intentionally left their bedroom when I called her, making it seem like she was hiding something. Of course, Sam followed her.
You put the keys and documents to you and your mother's mansions in your office? What if it gets stolen?
The call was on loudspeaker, so he heard the reason I kept it there. I also intentionally revealed the exact place they were kept. After I hung up, my husband called Kate. This time it wasn't on loudspeaker. They spoke as though they were flirting, but also in a joking way. I took the phone afterward and said, "I love you" to Kate. She replied back with the same words before ending the call. That got Sam jealous and angry, thinking she was cheating on him. He beat her up mercilessly that night. She was in pain, but it was part of the plan. She took pictures of herself after he beat her. The next night, we were stationed at my office with my husband and his colleagues, waiting for Sam, whom we were sure would try to break in. The gates were open, but the door to my office wasn't. He broke it and went in, going straight to where the keys and documents truly were. As he grabbed them, we all came out. He tried to run, but my husband teased him, and he fell on the floor. Then my husband arrested him immediately, and he was taken away. He was charged to court for abusing his wife, breaking into my office, and stealing important properties. All those left him with a 5-year jail term. My mom felt bad, but he needed to be taught a lesson. Kate got a divorce from him while he was still in jail. She remarried to a better man in my brother's 3rd year of serving. Of course, she maintained a close relationship with my family. She also got custody of his mansion and half of the little money he had in his bank as settlement and compensation for his mistreatment. It's been 4 years already, and I've birthed my first son. Kate was pregnant with her first child with her new husband. My mom has relocated to another country to spend her remaining years. Sam is left alone in jail without visits from anyone. He sent countless apology letters, but we never replied to any. He would come out to another hard time being homeless, jobless, and without money. Serves him right, doesn't it?